Okay, class, welcome back to English 2333. We're going to start off by talking about the memo that I sent you a few days ago in regards to, excuse me, the update, schedule update, and calendar adjustments for English 2333. Once again, I'd sent that to you, class, over on the 5th, and it talked about I'm making some adjustments to our calendar due to the continued of the coronavirus pandemic and the online teaching. So there's some adjustments that were made. First of all, you will receive a study guide for your midterm on March 11th, and that's still going to happen. And once again, class, as it mentioned in the memo, your midterm will occur after spring break. So I will give you the midterm on March 24th, and you will hand it in on March 26th. Okay. And as promised, today I'm posting a lecture that talks about the schedule changes. I will also go over Voltaire and Candide. Last time I lectured about, part of the lecture was about the history of Voltaire, who he was. I talked about an overview on his great short novel, Candide. I gave you some study questions that I mentioned would be very important for your your midterm exam. So we're going to do that today. And then I was promising that I would have your oral presentation topics back by today, and in fact, I have. Class, I read some really good pitches in there and approved of them. Something happened which has never happened before in a class in all the years that I've been teaching, where I had just this onslaught of people who wanted Virginia Woolf. So I just went down, excuse me, the line, and we, of course, can't have that. But the first three people that I read got Virginia Woolf. There were only three options. So there was a few other students that, once again, it's no reflection on you. It's just the way the things, the cookie crumbles, or the flip of the coin, that I asked you to don't do a ton of work, but you'll have to come up with another, once again, presentation subject other than once again, Virginia Woolf. And so that, of course, is on that sign-up sheet that I sent you. Here are names that I have on this sign-up sheet. So you've just a couple students that need to pick up another topic due. Okay? And then I told you individually in emails I sent to you on when you can get that to me. And once again, class, please continue with the readings that are posted on our calendar. So there we are in regards to the class, and during this week, once again, of where we are in regards to this class, we're going to continue with Voltaire. Okay, we're going to continue with Voltaire, and once again, be looking for that study guide that will be coming. And we'll talk a little more about the midterm, but the study guide will be coming, and we can look forward to that. And class, very good. Your midterm will be essay and format, one or two essay questions that you'll answer for me. Class, I will give you the study guide ahead of time. I will give you then those questions, and then you will write that midterm, type it out, and you will give it to me by March 26th. Now, one of the things that I noticed on the pitches that you sent me, not for everyone. But class, I must implore you. This is once again a sophomore level literature class, and I'm here to help. Class, when you write to me, take a sophomore level college literature class, you take your time and make sure that you have your grammar correct, your syntax correct, that each sentence is a complete sentence. Because on some of these pitches, I was like, and once again, a pitch is just a pitch that you were giving me. But when you go to write those midterms, if you're giving me a bunch of incomplete sentences or run-on sentences or grammatically incorrect sentences, your midterm's going to fail. So once again, these are all things that, you needed to have mastered in English 1301. Because I was reading a few of these from students, and I was like, and my job as a professor is to, once again, get you signed up on an oral presentation. And this is just a sign-off thing, but when you send something into a professor, you want to go over it and over it and over it, that you have it tight, once again. One of the things that I talked about early in the semester, when you write me, and this is just to help, remember that you're presenting yourself. Early on in the semester, I received these like stream of consciousness emails from students where I don't know what was going on, whether they thought they were sending me a text or whatever to a friend on their phone, but they were illiterate. All right? Class, we're in college. We're in a sophomore level literature class at college/university level. When you write to me, every sentence has to make grammatical sense. Every sentence has to be a complete sentence. Every sentence has to, once again, not have punctuation errors. So, and remember that, class, for your midterm. Because like I said, some of these pitches, I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But once again, the student was not cleaning up their work. You got to have your work tight. You got to have your work clean. You got to make sure you're writing in complete sentences. You got to make sure the grammatically correct sentences. And the same, too, as best as you can when you ever write to me through messages, okay? Already there's been a couple times in some of my other classes this semester where I've written to students, I said, please do not write to me like this again. Once again, you're showing unprofessionalism. You're showing your deficiencies in your writing. I mean, I don't mind a few mistakes, but once again, when you write to someone, have it together. Have it together. Let them know that you can write. Let them know that you're educated. Let them know, especially when you're dealing with a professor, that you're presenting yourself in the best possible way. Class, I hope that makes sense. When these midterms come in, I want them to be tight. All right? I want them to be as best as you can give it, because it's a big part of your grade in this class. Good. All right, class, now that we took care of that. And these are all things of learning, once again, the environment of college. The environment of, where you are and what you're doing. Remember, class, whether you loved it or you hated it, high school is over. Thank God. This is a whole other playing field. It's a whole other situation. Once again, where in some of my other classes, I had students who have missed major assignments this semester, major portfolios they didn't do. Once again, and I'm advising them right from the beginning, drop the class. Once again, this is in high school. You don't get passed on. All right. You didn't get the work done, drop the class, and then take it again, class, when your head is in it. Okay? If it's ever going to be in it. And generally it is. And that's why I don't judge anyone. I'm not here to beat anyone up or once again judge anyone where they are in regards to their life. Because if I did that, then it'd say, oh, Mr. Welsh is a hypocrite. And someone would turn to me and say, well, you know, were you Mr. Perfection at the age 18? The answer is no. Were you Mr. Welsh Perfection at the age of 19? The answer is no. Were you Mr. Perfection at the age of 17? The answer is no. Okay? That's one of the reasons why those later years while I wasn't in school. So I don't judge anyone. I'm kind and I'm helpful. Once again, if you're here, this is intense. All right? It's called college. And that's what I'm here to help you with, the college experience. Class, very good. Very good. So what we're going to do today is I gave you these questions last time in regards to CANDIDE. CANDIDE or optimism, once again. Chapter 1, how CANDIDE was brought up in a fine castle and how he was driven therefrom. So we see, once again, class, that we talked about CANDIDE is this journey. This journey into what? Into life. Into philosophy. Into the philosophy of life. Into the journey of, you know, what happens in life. Success, failure. Once again, bad calamities, good things. Once again, the journey that we see in CANDIDE. Very good. Once again, our Norton Anthology of World Literature. Now, one of the questions that I had asked you, once again, in regards to this is, how is philosophical optimism depicted in CANDIDE? And once again, I wanted you just to write down those answers for yourself anytime, class. And remember this for the midterm, because the midterm will be certainly dealing with CANDIDE. Remember, class, for the midterm, that when you want to make a point, or you're making a point, or you're trying to prove your thesis, back it up always with specific quotes and text from, once again, your text from the novel. Because I stay open as a professor. I always try and stay way open to my students and listen to what they have to say in midterms. And I'll say, all right, that's a good point. Back it up. Back it up. Quote from the text. Prove it. And then I stay wide open and I'll listen. I say, oh, you know, that's good. Or, you know, maybe I'm not buying it. Or maybe they're not backing it up. Or maybe, once again, they're not supporting their thesis with actual text. So remember, the midterm, quote from the text. Make your points. And I'll read them. You know, I'm here to see it. How is philosophical optimism depicted in CANDIDE? Okay. And so once again, as we talked about last time, championed by Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, philosophical optimism was widely accepted during the Enlightenment period. Leibniz believed that everything happens for a reason, which he neatly surmised with the phrase sufficient reason. The character of Pangloss in CANDIDE, an ardent supporter of Leibniz's theory, teaches CANDIDE that there are no effects without causes. And though some effects may not seem wonderful at the time, they all lead to happy endings. Okay, that philosophical optimism of a happy ending. Class. Every time and place is once again, the best of all possible worlds, because God controls everything and God will do only what is right. Okay? Candide questions the premise of philosophical optimism throughout the book because Voltaire thought it was a bunch of nonsense. There are surely events that have no greater purpose, like earthquakes. Pangloss's and Candide's flawed logic regarding causes and effects, such as the notion that noses are sloped to support glasses, so therefore people wear glasses, shows just how ridiculous optimistic thinking is. Okay? So that's the answer to the question. How is it once again depicted in Candide? So, those are a couple of examples from the text, and there's more that can be pulled out. Very good. So that was our first question that we dealt with. And number 2 is, what is the significance of the disease Pangloss contracts in Candide? Okay. What is the significance of the disease that Pangloss contracts in Candide? The syphilis suffered by some of the characters in Candide is symbolic of the dangers of empire building. Fascinating, okay? During this time of empire building, Pangloss's particular strain was given to him by Paquette, the Baroness's maid, and is thought to have originated with Christopher Columbus's journey to the New World in 1492. So fascinating. We're dealing with colonialism. We're dealing with traveling out. We're dealing with the old world coming to the new world. We're dealing with the old world bringing diseases once again to the new world. It was commonly held belief that syphilis, and those of you that don't know what syphilis is, you may all, most probably, but it's a venereal disease. It still crops up, like things like, different venereal diseases that are out there, things like chlamydia, things like syphilis, whatever's on the street, what strain of it, class. It was a commonly held belief that syphilis came from the unexplored America's logic. Follows that if Spain hadn't been trying to expand its territory, and influence, the disease would never have made its way to Western Europe. Okay. Syphilis is also symbolic of the original sin of Adam and Eve. Both spread through sexual intercourse, literally eating away at a person's physical and spiritual form. So once again, we see that. Syphilis, the significance of it, the disease that Pangloss contracts in Candide. All right. So once again, dealing with the original sin of Adam and Eve. Both spread through sexual intercourse, literally eating away at a person's physical and spiritual form. Syphilis wasn't always curable, okay? People would get it, they would lose their minds, it would eat away at their minds. I don't know what years. It's a good few historical figures that died of it. I know that Al Capone, the Chicago gangster, died of it. But then they came up with penicillin to cure it. Some strains of it anyways. It was commonly held believed that syphilis came from the unexplored Americas. Topics followed that if Spain had been trying to expand its territory influence, the disease never would have made its way once again, gone out and become rampant. Syphilis is also symbolic of the original sin of Adam and Eve. Both spread through sexual intercourse, literally eating away at a person's physical and spiritual form. So once again, the theory of conquest, the theory of empire building, the theory of tainting in some ways or diseasing aspects of purity, aspects of things that weren't in ruination. Very good. Question number 2. Excellent, excellent, excellent class. Very good. Question number 3. Why does Voltaire choose hanging as a means of death for Pangloss in Candide? Once again, as a means, once again, hanging of death in Candide. Pangloss is hanged for being a heretic. Okay. Someone who's going against, a heretic is someone who's going against the prevailing modes, the prevailing norms, or going against orthodoxy. An opponent of or deliverance in the dominant religion in Spain and Portugal, and that religion was Catholicism. Okay. The Spanish Inquisition was a government body formed in the 1400s to rid Spain of people who did not follow Catholicism. Okay. The Spanish Inquisition. So a grave time in history where once again, you don't follow our way, we're going to exterminate you. Okay. The Portuguese Inquisition followed in the 1530s. Pangloss is suspected of heresy during his dinner with the agent of the Inquisition. He tells everyone that the earthquake, in Lisbon, Portugal, was predetermined by God. And everything was for the best. For the best. Once again, we see that optimism. For the best. The agent of the Inquisition is suspicious about that line of thinking and asks whether Pangloss believes in original sin. Okay. It's there that are the necessary events with the best of all possible world. He's essentially saying that original sin in the fall of man had to happen. Humans didn't make anything to have this happen. Once again, Orthodox Catholicism, however, is based on the idea that humans have, once again, free will. Free will. So once again, Pangloss's difference of opinion is what gets him, once again, asserted as a heretic. So the Catholicism says that man has free will, and Pangloss is saying no, they don't. That everything is predestined and preordained by God. So there's no free will involved. Also, they say, we're going to hang you because of this. You're a heretic. You're going against church beliefs and doctrine of the orthodoxy of Catholicism. And he is hanged for this. Hanging wasn't the usual mode of, once again, execution for the Inquisition. Burning at the stake was more popular back then. You'd be burned at the stake for being a heretic. But Voltaire needed a way to resurrect Pangloss later in the story. It's easier to fake or recover from a hanging than a burning. So once again, we see class. There's a lot of humor in this. It's one of the reasons why it works. I mean, that's tragedy and horror, but it's also, there's some humor in it. In the horror of it, we laugh. We say, once again, hanging, burning. It'd be pretty hard to come back from either one, but Voltaire chooses hanging as a way to be able to easier resurrect his character. Class. Let's go to our final question. How does philosophical optimism color Candide's reactions to the deaths of Don Issachar and the Grand Inquisitor? Excuse me, class. Candide, the answer. The answer, class, is that Candide feels no remorse for the deaths of Don Issachar and the Great Inquisitor. He has been taught that everything happens for the best and that humans have no free will. Humans have no free will and everything happens for the best. So thus, fate is out of a person's hands. It's all predetermination. Predetermination by God's will. Though he has questioned Pangloss's teachings, he couldn't possibly feel bad for killing these two men because, as he believes, his actions, once again, are predetermined by God. Who is he to question the divine rule? The divine rule of God, once again. Funny. Because there is free will for men and women. Cunegonde has the opposite reaction of the deaths of the two men who held her hostage. While part of her may be glad to be free, she is greatly troubled by the consequences that may lie ahead for her and Candide. She rejected Pangloss's optimism long ago, and her naive idealism has been replaced by life-hardened realism. So once again, life-hardened realism by what she has experienced. Once again, sometimes in real life, how it mirrors literature, will meet people like this. All sorts of different personalities within this world, within this land. Sometimes people will see people say, wow, that person's really hard, right? Why are they so hard? How did they get so hard? Sometimes, class, by life, or they come to a place of hardened realism by all that they've experienced in life. And then some people can go through tons of hardness in life and still be very soft or very humble or very opened or not bitter by, once again, life-hardened realism. I have one of my good friends in El Paso who I still care about very much. He's about 15 years older than me, and he was in Vietnam. He saw a lot of trigger time in Vietnam. He didn't talk about it. Other vets had told me that he did. But once again, he's one of the most kind, genuine, open, happy men that life hasn't hardened him that much, even though he's been through a lot and went through a lot after Vietnam, including cancer of the throat. He's still not life hardened. He's good man. I'm glad he's my friend. He means a lot to me. I've learned a lot from him over the years. Candide sees the situation with optimism. The men holding his beloved are no longer a problem. But Kugandad can only view it all with extreme pessimism. So good, class. Those are those questions I gave you. Take notes on what I've just lectured on. Analyze the text as you did with those. And note that once again, they will be important for your midterm. Now, study guide on the 11th. You will get the midterm on the 24th. You'll hand it in on the 26th. And I'll have another video that talks about the midterm, etc., etc. Class, once again, I saw some very good pitches. I have almost everyone signed up. Once again, my apologies. There's nothing I could do about it. It's very funny how so many people wanted Virginia Woolf. And once again, it's great to want Virginia Woolf. She's heavy. And I've dealt with her for years on many levels. Sometimes very, very challenging she is. Some of her images from, like, say, the novel To the Lighthouse has stayed with me for a very, very long time because she's dealing in deep psychology, deep images, very, very deep writing to capture scenes and essences and stories. So, class, those few students that need to do that, get that over to me. I told you not until next week. I'll get you signed up too. And with that said, class, I hope you have a great spring break. Good luck, good luck, good luck. Stay well. And we'll see you next time I post a lecture. And once again, stay up with your readings on the course policies and calendar. Class, have a great afternoon and a good rest of the week. And have yourself to a great spring break when it comes around to that. Okay, take care now. Bye-bye.